Coaches. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, they can't hold a flame against you, ay. Blow the whistle, blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, got the game, it ain't no issue, yeah. Blowing the whistle, I had enough with you, the championship, it is gone. Ain't listen to you, I can't give it to you, cause you don't know what I've been on. This is the Coaches Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Fantasy Coaches Podcast. I am back as your host, Coach Steve. Coach Gibbs is away today, guys. He's got some things he's got to take care of, but don't worry, he will be back after the draft. Of course, we have Coach John in the show. What's going on, Coach John? He's back.
Nothing much, just hanging out. Another beautiful day in the off season. We get to talk rookie prospects again today, so it's a beautiful day.
Absolutely, absolutely. And of course, we have our special guest tonight's show, Gladys. Welcome to the show for the first time. How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good. So before we get started, just tell us a little about yourself and, for our listeners.
So you can find me on Twitter at Gladys L. Tyler. I write content on the offensive side for Going for Two. I write content on the defensive side for Razzball, and then occasionally write content for Rotoballer, but apparently I kind of suck, so I don't know how much more content I'll be writing for them. And I am a huge Steelers fan and a huge Aaron Rodgers hater. So
love
cheers.
that.
Cheers.
So news will be fun today.
I am now a Rodgers hater too, so let's do this. This is going to be a fun show today, guys. So obviously we are talking quarterback rookies. We're going to be going through our lists as you've been listening in, just like we've been doing for all the other positions. But before we get to that, we of course have some big breaking news to talk about today on today's show. And of course, it's Aaron Rodgers being traded to the New York Jets. And this is what the trade goes down. The Packers receive the 13th pick overall, the 43rd overall pick, and the 207th pick overall in this 2023 draft. They also receive an additional 2024 second round pick that could be a first round pick if Rodgers plays over 60% of the plays in 23 for the Jets. And on the flip side, the Jets receive, obviously, Aaron Rodgers, the 15th pick overall, and the 170th pick overall in the 2023 draft. Aaron Rodgers will not wear number 12. He will be wearing number 8. So, team, what's Rodgers' value now? What is Rodgers' value as a New York Jet now? Dynasty redraft, whatever you want to say.
All right. I will say, so comparative to last year, he's probably in a better situation. I think the offense will be a great They have tons of offensive weapons. Once Breece Hall comes back healthy, I mean, this could be one of his better sort of setups he's had in a long time. With Garrett Wilson really coming into his own. The offensive line looked great. Defense is solid. So I think Aaron Rodgers is going to step into an awesome role and be totally fine. So wherever you had him sort of ranked for redraft last year, you could probably plug him in low end QB1, high end QB2 again this year, with those big spike weeks. But dynasty, it's still Aaron Rodgers. He could quit at any moment. I mean, I'm not investing in any sort of super flex dynasty format, anything like that. Like I still like whatever I was hands off with Aaron Rodgers last year, I'm going to be hands off again this year. So maybe it opens up a window for you to trade him if you have him in dynasty formats, but that's kind of how I'm treating. I don't think he's going to get this like second lease on life in New York and all of a sudden play for 5 more years. Like it's just, so I think the trade is crazy. When I heard the details of the trade, I was kind of shocked. I think the Jets, minimal investment to maybe have, Hall of Fame quarterback for a year or two. You're only trading back 2 picks in the first round. And then all of a sudden you're giving up a second, a sixth, and a potential second next year. It's like, yeah, of course I'll do that for Aaron Rodgers. So great trade by the Jets. I think Packers were kind of held over a barrel. And yeah, for fantasy, wheels up on everyone in New York. I think this is just good news for all those pieces. So, yeah, I feel good about it. I'm actually shocked. I'm shocked. I feel this, news. We're all reacting to it kind of live. I'm kind of shocked how comfortable I feel about Aaron Rodgers now for at least next season in redraft format.
I want to wait till preseason to see when he gets in and when he starts working with second-year players like Garrett Wilson. If last year was any indication of the timing that he needs to be at least fantasy compatible with his wide receivers, I think it's good for Allen Lazard. I would pick up Allen Lazard quickly in redraft. I don't really do much dynasty, but I would pick up Allen Lazard. Garrett Wilson, like, he performed with what he had last year, so you would think that he would be okay with Aaron Rodgers, but we know what Aaron Rodgers is and who Aaron Rodgers is, and we know who he asked to be there. So will Garrett Wilson still get the plum share of the targets? Or are they going to go to Lazard or someone else that Rodgers figures out that he favors more than Wilson? I would wait. I'm going to wait till preseason. I think it's good for Aaron Rodgers, but of course it's good for Aaron Rodgers. Why would he do something that's not good for himself? So their schedule is not bad. I mean, yeah, the Browns, the Patriots, the Bills. He's gonna have like a little bit of struggle, I think, but I would pick up Aaron Rodgers in a 2-quarterback league. I don't know that I would pick him up in a 1-quarterback league right away, but like I said, I think it's really good for Lazard. The offensive line is really good. I think it's Breece Hall comes back full force. It's really good for Breece Hall because now they won't be able to stack. But as far as Wilson and Rodgers, I'm going to hold off for a little bit.
Yeah, no, like I said, I mean, obviously this was a trade that was coming. It just had to get done, obviously, at some point. Yeah, I think at this point, you're looking at what Rodgers did last year, 3,600 yards, 26 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Again, maybe he brings down the turnovers a little bit on terms of that note. But I mean, he was, just a borderline QB1. And I think that's what you're getting at him. He's also 39 years old. Let's not forget that. And he's with a team that is pretty much, in terms of talent, just about the same what he had last year for the most part. And so I don't really see him taking another step up. He's good in a super flex league for dynasty. If you're a contending team, he's a good QB2. Love him for that. But as a 1 QB league, I'd probably wouldn't really go after him right away. But if you really like that low end, I take a QB later in drafts. Definitely a good option on that note. That he's got the weapons around him. Overall, Rodgers should be solid. It's good for the Jets. Obviously, the Packers obviously grabbed a lot of picks to help out Jordan Love. But how do you guys feel? Who do you like? Who positively impacted? Who's negatively impacted? Who do you guys feel? Was impacted on this?
For the Packers or
both teams? Whatever, either team.
I think there's a lot of pressure on Jordan Love now, and I'm not sure that Jordan Love is going to be able to ascend to the pressure. I don't think he's going to be really bad, but the pressure is for him to perform not as Rodgers last year, but as Rodgers at his peak. And I don't know that the kid has it in him. I think it's a negative impact for any of the wide recievers on the Green Bay Packers. Like, I'm not rushing out to get any of the wide receivers on the Green Bay Packers. I think it positively impacts Breece Hall. Breece Hall is right now the New York Jet that I would want to pick up like early and often, because if he's healthy, if he comes back completely healthy, I think he's going to be a stud. He was going to be a stud anyway, but now they have to worry about Rodgers. Even like a slightly impotent Rodgers, they still have to worry about him. And that is only good for Breece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. If I had to boil it down to one person on the Jets side of the ball, it would probably be Breece Hall. I think he's just going to benefit the most. I mean, it's the quick reaction be easy to say Garrett Wilson, and I do think it helps Garrett Wilson having a Hall of Famer throw you the ball. So I just think the scoring opportunity tied in with the big play potential that Breece Hall showed us, he could be in line for a ton of yards and, 18, one of those weird 18, 20 touchdown outlier seasons and be able to mix in a 50, 60-yard run every once in a while. So, yeah, I think it's awesome for Breece Hall. The question is health. So as we get to training camp and we hear news and all that, if he's fully good to go, then I would gladly take Breece Hall often in redraft.
I have a question though. Are they keeping Zach Wilson? Was Zach Wilson still at Jets?
Yes,
that is a good question.
Zach Wilson should still be on the team for this year as the backup.
Oh,
I don't think
wow.
I don't think they release him, and I don't think they trade him because I don't think anyone wants him. So I think he stays on the team for the year. So
maybe here's the thing, because they don't have Mike.
They don't have a backup really.
They don't have Mike White anymore, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
They signed somebody like a really journeyman kind of quarterback. I think I can't think off the top of my head, but it should be Zach Wilson. I'm pretty sure. I don't think the team was going to get rid of him just because Rodgers was there. At least.
Okay. It's funny to me, like, and this has nothing to do with fantasy. This is more just like football operations. But it would be interesting to me to even keep Zach Wilson around in your locker. Like, what are we doing here? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's
it could be a good thing for him to learn behind Rodgers and maybe gain that experience that he just doesn't have. That could be a benefit.
Your team wore another quarterback's face when they got on a plane. I mean, they clearly don't like you.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like nothing seems like it's going to work out. For all of a sudden, Zach Wilson's going to like figure it out and lead the Jets. Like he's just not. It's just never going to happen. So why are we even wasting our time? Trade him for a 5th round pick. You know, maybe we'll get something. Who knows? Like, but it just feels like a waste of time to even keep him around. But who knows? I'm not the GM of the Jets, so it's interesting. And on the Packers side of the ball, really, I think it obviously negatively impacts everybody. I think for redraft, everyone's taking a big hit because Jordan Love's going to struggle. The question is, to me now, if you have some of these, like, Aaron Jones's, even AJ Dillon's, if you're in any sort of dynasty or even keeper format, like I'm looking to trade these guys away. Like, when do we see the Packers get good again? Like 3 years? It's like, okay, well, who cares about Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon at that point? So any piece that you can get value of, because the Packers are going to be in a weird situation for the next couple of years, and I don't really want any offensive piece of that. So while they're figuring out their offensive woes, just move on from those pieces now while they still have value. So that's my only advice there.
I don't think they have value now. I mean, who's trading for AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones? I don't want them on my team now.
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe in the season they actually perform because they're leaning on the run. Maybe then use that as a way to trade them because they're going to running back has value during the season.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's more for those people who are like, well, let me wait and see what Jordan Love does. It's like, I just think you're hanging on to a hope and a prayer. And if he does, even by the time he figures it out, it's the end of this season. Every running back's now a year older. It's like, all right, so that's how I would kind of play it for the Green Bay side.
All right. Well, let's move on. We have some more news here. Jameson Williams suspended 6 games for violating the gambling policy. Do you draft him in redraft?
No.
I drafted him in best ball the day before. Yay me. Yeah. No, I'm not drafting him in redraft.
Maybe a last pick if you're depending how big your bench is, but I did just trade for him in Dynasty though. I am still looking to trade for him in Dynasty. Definitely not great that he got suspended, but I did trade away Kenny Pickett to get Jameson Williams on my team. I'm sorry. I know you're there, but he's my 4th quarterback. I have 4 QBs and let me get Jameson Williams in a 4 wide receiver league, but he's definitely a good buy low now, honestly. Personal opinion. So
yeah, it's just, and also I just want to be quick and clear with this because I looked into it because I was kind of pissed for Calvin Ridley at first. I was like, what the hell? So what happened was apparently we all know Calvin Ridley bet on the Falcons and Jameson Williams bet on other teams in the NFL. So apparently that's where Goodell draws his line. Apparently, I don't know. It's so we all know rules in the NFL are totally arbitrary and stupid and dumb. And why Jameson Williams got 6 games and Calvin Ridley got a year, I don't know. But that is what when I looked into it, that was the explanation I dug up.
They also did it in the stadium too. They made the bets in the stadium. Like it's even worse. They can track that. So yeah, definitely not great.
I didn't hear that. That's funny.
Yeah,
man.
All right, Gladys, this one's for you. Obviously, we didn't get to the Allen Robinson traded to the Steelers. So you tell us, how do you feel about this trade?
I think it sucks. I really have no idea why they traded for Allen Robinson whatsoever. I'm not sure what they were doing. I'm pretty sure it was like probably during one of the BC games when Tomlin was watching his son and he was like, oh yeah, it sounds good. Let's do that. Not even paying attention to what's going on. Who does it positively impact? I don't know. I don't think it positively impacts anyone on the Steelers. And I think it potentially could negatively impact Deontay Johnson. And that makes me sad because I also picked up Deontay Johnson in best ball. But yeah, enough about me. I'm not sure what this trade is for. Like, the Steelers are known for picking up wide receivers later in the draft, and they have those late picks, and they have the wide receiver class now that will be sitting there later. I'm not sure why they would do this. I just have no idea. And agree. The Rams are paying like 3/4 of what he's owed, so they get off like $10 million. But he hasn't shown anything that you would say, oh my God, let's get him right now and let's put him on the team and he would be so great. I don't get it. When I heard this, I almost cried inside.
Yeah, it's just crazy to show you the value of Allen Robinson in NFL GMs' minds, that they'll move up a little bit in the 7th, and you have to eat 70% of his salary for me to take him on. So, I mean, it's like, if that's where the NFL values him at this point, fantasy managers should probably just throw him away. But I get it. I mean, it's funny. I get it from the Steelers aspect where it's like, yeah, sure. We'll move back a few rounds in the 7th and pay $5 million. And if we cut him, we don't owe him anything. So he might not even make the team. So there's a chance that could happen as well. And they bring him in to camp and train and see what he's got. And who knows, maybe he's their 3rd or 4th option. I have no idea. But for the Steelers, super low risk. We don't have to do anything, whatever. We'll bring Allen Robinson in the building. The Rams are just kind of, they're in a weird position as well. They really maxed out the credit card to win a Super Bowl, and now they're having to pay that credit card bill. So it's like, you're going to see a lot of this happen in LA for a little while, where people just get traded away for peanuts and they have to eat the salary as well. So again, it's just going to be hard. We talked about it with Green Bay. I think the Rams, it could be a weird couple of years for the Rams while they figure some stuff out. I don't care at all for fantasy. I don't really care. I'll be shocked if Allen Robinson plays any significant time for the Steelers.
Yeah, no, I mean, wouldn't draft him in a redraft right now. Don't want him in Dynasty. I mean, he's a 30-year-old wide receiver that made his career being a volume-based wide receiver, and now you're going to a team that has 2 other wide receivers, a great tight end, a good running back who can catch the ball out of the backfield. There's just really no value where I see him being the number 1 on the team, with Deontay Johnson still being the main target guy and Pickens being the playmaking downfield threat. So it's just a move to have a veteran presence, I guess, on the team. I mean, it could be that maybe the Steelers did see a lot of wide receiver prospects this offseason. They had a lot of visits with wide receivers, and then they go and make trade for Allen Robinson. So maybe they just didn't like what they saw in the prospects, and they're like, hey, let's bring a veteran on the team and see where it goes from there. But again, it's really nothing great for the Steelers. It's just another wide receiver to have. Could be good for Van Jefferson. Now maybe moves back into that wide receiver 2 spot. So keep your eye on him, maybe late round, depends on what the Rams do in this draft. But it definitely not the best trade, but it's always fun to see an old head move. So all right. So that is all of our news for the day, guys. Let's get into our main topic today. We're talking rookie quarterbacks, the last of our quarterback series here now. Of course, we used our combined overall rankings to come up with our top 14 quarterbacks. So I think it's 15 actually in this draft here. 13 actually. So, all right, maybe 14. I don't know. Let's see. Oh, yeah, 13. So let's start off at the top here. Max Duggan from TCU quarterback. Me and Gladys have him outside our top 10. John, you have him at number 10 overall, so I'll let you start on him. Tell us about Max Duggan.
So Max Duggan's one of those guys where I liked him because he is sort of the very tail end of like a dual threat kind of guy. He can move around well. He can escape the pocket. If he needs to, obviously he can rush. He has sort of that knack for the end zone type of feel. So I like players like that. You know, his arm's not great. He's got a decent short intermediate ball. His deep throw is not super accurate, but you know, it comes with maturity, comes with time, and obviously he wouldn't be 10th if he had a ton of spectacular highlight tapes. So at this point in the draft, I start to look for guys that I think could provide fantasy relevance with just their legs as well, because it's hard to find a quarterback this deep. You know, we'll find out come draft day where the NFL values all these guys, but it's just not common that you find the, you know, 6th round fantasy difference maker at quarterback. So if I'm going to take a stab, if I'm going to take a shot, it's someone who can move with his legs in and out of the pocket, throw off platform, you know, all those types of things. And I think Max Duggan does that well.
Can't argue with that. I mean, he did use his legs a lot, and especially like towards the end of the season. I went with the reason I didn't have him in the top 10 is that I went the other way. I went with talent. So I have guys on my list that are pocket passers, but aren't necessarily that athletic and don't move that much. So I didn't go for fantasy value so much as just a talent value as who I thought had more talent. And of course it's going to all depend on where they land. I mean,
right.
Even with the top guys, it's just going to depend on when they land. But that's the reason I didn't have him in. He's like he reminds me of like a bulldog, you know, like he'll get in there and he'll like, and that's good. That's good for fantasy. But I don't know. I wasn't that impressed with him.
That's fair. And before we get too into quarterbacks, rookie quarterbacks, I do like to preface this whole conversation with saying, you know, Gladys is right. It is totally landing spot changes rankings for fantasy for quarterbacks dramatically. Like it doesn't really affect my wide receiver and running back rankings a ton because I usually, you know, kind of rank them off of talent and but quarterback is, first of all, I'm not a talent evaluator for quarterback. I have no idea. And second of all, the weapons around the offensive line, there's so many other variables that go into like fantasy quarterback relevance that it's like it's hard to
just pull up Trevor Lawrence.
Right,
like
exactly. Trevor Lawrence, perfect example. Trevor Lawrence
Yeah.
walked into a crazy situation and it's hard for fantasy. I get it. So I will say that, and especially as we're starting from the bottom and working our way up, we're starting with it's going to be really hard to find fantasy relevance. So I totally get your process by saying, no, let me just go by the best talent and then maybe fantasy comes. So I like that. I like that process.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of these quarterbacks we're going to talk about in the early on here aren't really that great. You know, it's just finding different guys we're going to mention so you guys are aware of them overall. Again, I mean, I have him outside my top 10, you know, purely based on honestly talent. I just don't really see it. He has some cool mobility to him. He obviously has that like a leadership, you know, playmaking ability. But I also thought about that for Zach Wilson, and it just didn't turn out right. And Max Duggan has the same kind of, you know, issues. You know, I felt like he's more of a system production, can't really read coverages very well, stares down his target consistently, and then super inaccurate way too often for me. And so things like that, I just don't really see him having a place in the NFL level, especially because he's even small too, which is not great for a quarterback. So some of those reasons why I kept him outside of my top 10, but he definitely has that mobility and leadership and alpha dog mentality to be a leader for a quarterback. He doesn't have all the tools to really get it all together. So, all right, over to number 12, Aiden O'Connell. I have him 8th. You guys have him outside your top 10. So I guess I will start with Aiden O'Connell here. So I could see why people might have him outside the top 10. It's pretty obvious. Obviously, there's a lot of things like mobility, his arm strength are two major factors that could really push somebody saying, I don't want anything to do with this guy. But some of the things I do like about him for just an overall quarterback that I think he will make a roster as a backup eventually is that he's poised, he's tough. He was someone who walked on to Purdue instead of taking a D2 school scholarship. He walked on to Purdue and eventually became the starter and performed pretty well last year in 2021, not 2022, but 2021, where he eventually got the start at some point, and he actually performed really well. Again, he's got some issues in terms of being able to throw down deep. I don't know if he has that accuracy, but he fits pro style offenses. He was doing that at Purdue. And I think the things like that will get him on the field if needed at times, especially as a backup. He's this really smart quarterback. I think he can be accurate enough in that short to intermediate range. But I get why people might be off on him. But I think that his overall talent will get him on the field. I think he's a smart enough quarterback to be able to perform even with his negatives that he offers. So how do you guys feel about, obviously you guys feel a certain way about Aiden O'Connell. So
yeah, no, I like Aiden. I think he, like you said, he's a very traditional, accurate kind of pocket passer. He's a, good arm, makes good first reads, good second reads. The question is for me with him, and it's with a lot of these college quarterbacks, one of the traits I like to see is what happens when things start to go awry. Like what happens when the play breaks down? What happens when your first read or second read isn't open? And because that's what's going to happen in the NFL. Defenses are going to design coverages to make you progress through your reads. They're going to send a guy like Aaron Donald down the throat right at you. And so I just think Aiden sometimes gets a little anxious and nervous when the play breaks down. You can kind of like start shuffling his feet a lot. He needs everything to kind of go his way, and he looks great when he does, which is awesome. So for sure, he has the talent. He can make NFL throws. He's a good player. I just worry, sort of NFL evaluators, I think are starting to really lean towards these like toolsy, raw, like kind of quarterbacks. And it's like
had a ton of private workouts with teams,
which is great. Which is good.
I mean, he's workout, so people are interested in him.
He's good. So what I'm saying is that's good. And listen, I love the walk-on mentality, but that doesn't fall on deaf ears. I love that he did that. It shows that he's willing to work hard. He's willing to, he humbled himself. He knows what he has to do. And so, that's a good thing too. So I'm sure whatever he needs to work on, he can work on at the next level, but it's just going to be, again, if a team invests a 6th round pick in him, it's like, how much leash does he really get? It's like, yeah, he could be great. He could be, what's the kid guy from Washington? Tyler Heineke. He could be a Tyler Heineke. He certainly could be, but it's like
he's a journeyman type of quarterback.
Yeah, does an NFL team like say to themselves, we have to put him in, or it's like we'll put him in if push comes to shove. And so that's my only fear with O'Connell, but he certainly looks the part of an NFL quarterback.
He actually wasn't very much on my radar. He has happy feet, which does not serve you well, like John said, when you have Aaron Donald and Watt like breathing down your neck, and you start to panic, and his touchdown to interception ratio, I think shows that. I just didn't. I don't think that he in Purdue having happy feet is one thing. Having happy feet in Purdue to transpose that to the NFL is like a totally different thing, and I would worry that it's not going to end well for him, like at all.
That's true. I like it. All right, let's head over to Stetton Benson, the not Heisman Trophy winner, but the national championship winner here. Gladys, you have him 8th. I have him 10th. John, you have him outside the top 10. So Gladys, you can start us off since you are 8th.
Okay. There are 2 guys that I was higher on than I probably should have been. He is one of them. McKee's another one. I like the mentality that Stetson Bennett comes into games with. All right. I worry about his off the field issues. I worry that he is unfocused when it comes to actually doing the job right. But he ended 2022 with a 68% completion percentage, 27 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. And he had 205 rushing yards. So he has the ability to run too. I don't think that he is fantasy viable. I'm going to say that right off the bat. My putting him 8th was, my putting him 8th was purely on the fact that the reason that John put Doug in his top 10. I think the mentality will get him on a team. I think that if they can overlook his indiscretions when he's off the field, the mentality will get him on the team, and the mentality will get him to be a journeyman quarterback. But I don't think he's fantasy viable. But I do think he deserves like a top 10 in this class because of where he played and how well he played when he had to.
Right. I like that, honestly. I mean, there's some good things about him. He has enough mobility that he's decent in that regards. He kind of comes off with that, kind of a leadership mentality. He's accurate in the short and immediate passes. He can avoid sacks consistently. He's someone that I think puts in the work, could be a decent backup journeyman kind of quarterback over his career. But obviously he lacks size. He's older. He's 25 years old, I think, right? He's an older prospect. I mean, he struggles with his placement, his velocity. He's inconsistent game to game. There's just a lot of negatives on him. But yeah, he's my 10th guy because I think his leadership shows off enough and his potential that he could be decent as a backup. That's why I have him at 10. So.
Yeah, I have him outside, and he's 11, so he's right outside. And it is basically age and size that kind of concerns that just have him just outside. I think he's great. I think he's a good leader. I think there is a big difference between leading a college team to a national championship and leading an NFL franchise. And I don't know if he's ready to make that step. That's a big step to make. But I think he is like you said, good journeyman. There's a lot of these guys in the NFL. There's a lot of these guys that are really, really good. It's hard to be one of the 32. I don't think he'll ever be one of the 32.
I have a quick question and I honestly don't know the answer to this.
Mm-hmm.
With Brady playing as long as he did,
mm-hmm.
Do we worry about a quarterback coming in at 25 because he's coming in at 25 and not the longevity of it, or that he has his learning curve would be smaller because he's older? Is that what the
So my fear usually with older prospects is the question is always, why is it taking this long for you to break out?
That's solid.
I expect a 25-year-old man to beat up on 19 and 20-year-old kids in college. I just do. So when I see running back and wide receiver or tight end prospects that are 23, 24, I'm yeah, you should be, you're going against a cornerback that's 20. You should be beating this kid up. So, I just, that is why I am an ageist when it comes to prospects. To me, it's not I don't think it cuts his lifespan short in the NFL. No, I don't think that. I think more when you break out as a true freshman at 18, 19, and you're throwing up numbers in the SEC, I'm okay, that's kid's legit. He's really good. When you're doing it at 25, to me, it's wow, I mean, I kind of expect you. You've been playing football for a long time. I would expect you to be pretty good at this point. So that's my only reason why I bring up age.
No. I mean, everyone does.
Yeah. No. But that's at least why I think most people probably bring up age with prospects is it's just kind of a red flag. Why did it take you this long to when you hear guys who win the starting job their senior year, it's well, why did it take you till your senior year to win the starting job? If you're that good, you should have been on the field earlier. So
right. And that's why we like prospects who break out at early age, because there's potential for long-term, sustainability compared to someone who breaks out at an older age.
Right.
All right, let's head over to number 10, Tyson Baggett. I think I'm saying that name wrong, but that's okay. I have him 7th, and you guys both have him outside the top 10. Lovely. There's a couple of these that we have like this here today. So Tyson Baggett, he is a D2 quarterback. So I can tell you that's probably one of the major concerns off the bat why he might not be in someone's top 10. But, he rewrote the book at Shepherd. I believe that's the college he went to. He's got a cannon for an arm. He's got, he can execute the RPO very well, which is something they use at the NFL level. He's above average athlete, can make the throws at all 3 levels. Decision-making on throws is pretty good. Got a quick release. I just felt like, if he lands in the right situation, and maybe that's probably part of the reason why maybe he's not in top 10 too, that he has an opportunity to grow, to be a really solid backup kind of quarterback, where he has maybe an opportunity at some point to be a bridge quarterback for an NFL team, because he's got that arm strength to do it. And kind of like, not Ryan Fitzpatrick kind of atmosphere, but a guy who can kind of sling it. And that's kind of what I see in him. So that's kind of why I have him at 7. I just feel like he has the arm talent and the size that some of these other guys behind them really just don't have. So that's why he's my number 7th guy. So, but you guys tell us why he's outside your top 10.
Honestly, not even on my radar. But I'm looking at it now, and apparently, kudos to you, because, yeah, not a bad kid. 22 years old. Yeah, D2, 6'3", 210 pounds, has the build for it. Kudos, buddy.
Watching Shepard film was not fun.
Yeah, no kidding. Holy smokes. How did you even get it?
These two videos are not fun to watch.
It must have been, they must have sent you legit film reels like back in the day. And you were just I picture you sitting in your attic watching
it. It was just like from the distance, I'm like, which player is he on the field? I'm like, all right, there's a quarterback.
Yeah, it's not even HD cameras. It's hard to even get who you're scouting. Yeah, wow, good for you. Yeah, Tyson is an interesting prospect. He's great. I like him. He has a quick release when he throws the ball, which is always nice to see. That translates well into the NFL. He put up a video game type seasons and ungodly type numbers. That's always good to see. The question for me is always going to be lesser competition. It's just going to be, you see it a lot especially in college in quarterback. The transition from college to NFL is dramatic. So the transition from D2 to D1 is probably dramatic. And then so to make that jump all the way to the NFL, to me, there's a lot of variables that can go wrong. Now, physically, and on tape, he's great. Like, everything is awesome. Like, I don't love anything about him. It's just one of those things where I am genuinely curious. How does he translate to the competition? That's all.
Who was his greatest competition? Who did Shepard play that were?
I'd have to look. I mean, I'm sure they probably had some out of conference games, right, against maybe Army, Navy, teams like that. Out of conference games against I can't even think.
Oh no, I was just curious.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who. Yeah, I don't. Like a Grambling, some of these other. I'm trying to think. Yeah, but they wouldn't play anyone of significance. They wouldn't play anyone in a Power 5 conference unless something crazy happened. Right, but like a Bentley, like a Bentley college, some like D1A, kind of
East Stroudsburg.
Yeah, there you go.
Slippery Rock, New Haven.
Yeah, there you go.
Championship game. They did lose a championship game.
Stonehill College.
Bloomsburg, Westchester,
shout out Stonehill.
Millerville, Lockhaven, Hoopstown. Yeah, there's not all.
These are made up schools. There. You're just making up schools. You're just making up schools now. They played Brockton High. It was a great game. That was a great game.
All right, let's move on from this Tyson, my guy here. Let's get on to number 9 here. Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Glass, you have him 7th. John, you have him 8th. I have him outside my top 10. So Glass, you can start us off. Why is he where he is for you?
I like the competition that they played against. B, it's not Slippery Rock, but still, it's up there. I think that Dorian Thompson-Robinson is a quarterback who is ultimately dependent. He's one of those that is definitely dependent on who drafts him, right? And I think that if he gets in the right situation, he will be like the fantasy sleeper quarterback of the season. So he had last season he was 70%. His completion percentage was 70%, which was the highest of any of the ones that we're talking about, right? He had 27 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and he ran for 12 touchdowns. So this is someone who has the dual threat. He has the dual threat capability that you want in the modern day NFL. He is, as most of the guys that we're talking about, not well, except for Levis and Richardson, not particularly big. Like his frame is slight, so there's a worry there. But I like that he succeeded with the coach that he had at UCLA, who I really dislike, and that he succeeded at UCLA, and that I think the competition that you play against matters. And I think that if a quarterback is running for 12 touchdowns and he's also throwing for 27 touchdowns, that there is some merit to his ability to be NFL caliber if he's playing against serviceable competition, which Dorian did. Thompson Robinson did. I don't know him well enough to call him Dorian.
John?
Yeah, I agree with everything Gladys said. I also want to echo the sentiment that he basically improved as a passer every year at UCLA. He has been hyper athletic, has always been a good runner, and always a threat with his feet. But the question with those styles of players are, how do they evolve as a pocket passer? Yes, we get it. We can do design runs with you and you can beat a linebacker. That's fine. But what happens when we ask you to stand in the pocket and drive down the field? And this past year, he really improved on that, which 70% completion rate, throwing for over 3,000 yards. I mean, those are good benchmarks that you want to see out of someone who is notoriously a mobile threat, And so I think if he can get in the right hands, get behind a good offensive line, he can start to make these and keep the progression going where he's still, in the high 60s, low 70s completion percentage. And, things all tend to work out. I think the slight frame is concerning a little, but, I noticed more almost, but like Robert Griffin wasn't exactly the most built guy in the world, and it worked for him. And so, that's what I kept looking at and kind of equating to and looking and going, oh, well, Robert Griffin can make it work. So why can't this guy? Not everyone has to be Cam Newton. Not everyone has to be, Josh Allen. Like there can be, you can be 210 and still, make guys look silly and miss in the NFL. So I think it's, he's not going to put his shoulder down and run someone over like Cam did, but he can certainly spin around you like Robert Griffin did. So I like him a lot. I think he's a very, in fantasy communities and, super flex formats, if it's late second round or, and he's still kind of kicking, I'm totally psyched taking the upside chance on DTR. I'd love it.
Oh, DTR, I like that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he could probably have been 10th for me. I had him 11th, so I could have swapped him for Bennett, honestly. But there's just a couple things I just didn't really like while watching him on film, honestly. I just felt like, yes, he was more accurate this year. It was good to see. But just overall, I feel like there were some accuracy issues still on some certain throws, especially when he started throwing a little bit more deep. I don't think he has that arm to really get the ball downfield consistently enough. Again, a lot of his progressions were more in that shotgun formation. And I don't know if he's going to be able to adjust to the NFL pro level offense there enough. Again, he's a slimmer built guy here. Kind of reminds me of like a Tyler Huntley individual. I just didn't see enough to make me like, wow, I think that he could sustainably be in an offense consistently enough. But I mean, he could probably have been in my top 10. He probably should have been in my top 10. He is getting a lot of looks at NFL teams as I'm doing my most recent article. So he's getting a lot of looks. So I probably have him lower than I should, but I just didn't care for his film. That's all. All right, let's go over to number 8 now. Clayton Tune out of Houston. I have him 6th. John, you have him 8th. Glad you have him 10th. So I guess I will start with this one here, Tune. All right, so with Tune, things I really liked about him, accuracy. Very accurate at all 3 levels of the game. When watching on the film, he was making fantastic throws. He's a relatively good athlete, someone who can avoid defenders within the pocket. I love the footwork. Watching that was very impressive, very smart. instinctive player, has a good feel for our offenses and coverages. And again, there wasn't too many things I really hated. The arm strength wasn't there. That's slightly a concern, but I felt like with the accuracy that he has in the short to intermediate levels, he has enough of that to kind of keep him from getting like thrown out of the league early. I feel like he could make himself a pretty solid, journeyman type of quarterback. I don't think he's a star or anything like that. Will be a full-time starter ever, but he has a good chance to be a pretty permanent backup in this league for quite a while. So it's kind of why I have him here at number 6. I said, yeah, 6. He's right before all the elite people for me. So he's my first of the second tier, third tier guys that in my grouping. So John, how do you feel?
I like him a lot. I wrote in my notes, out of the box starter. So, any NFL team, he could step in to just about any type of offense, any style they want to run, and he could operate it. So he's good in that regard. I think he is, like you said, Coach Steve, I don't know if he's a superstar. So he's probably more of that like bridge intermediate quarterback. We'll draft Davis Mills-esque. We'll draft him. We'll play him until we find a permanent solution. Even Daniel Jones, how great Daniel Jones has played, but that same kind of guy, like we'll take him for now until we find the guy. I think that's going to be Clayton Tune's biggest problem is he's accurate. He's not, he throws well, but not crazy good. He's a jack of all trades. I like him. He's a good quarterback. Probably will find a job, bounce around the league for a long time. You'll hear his name come up now and again, but in terms of fantasy relevance, unless something dramatic happens and he really breaks into the scene, I don't see a ton of long-term value. But high-end ceiling, you hope maybe he lands in a situation like Daniel Jones and you get a couple usable years out of him.
Tune is one of the ones where like him and McKee on my numbers should have been switched. He's smart in the pocket. I think he tends to, I mean, it's easy for me to say because I'm not being pressured by like 320-pound men, but like he tends to like have that kind of not freezability, but it's not a happy feet like the other, but he under pressure, he isn't as accurate as he is without the pressure. So he has to go somewhere that has a really good offensive line, I think. But once he's there, if he's in that kind of system, I think he makes all the throws that an NFL quarterback should make. I think that his arm strength is good, not elite, but he can make throws. I wasn't impressed with his running ability, his mobility, and that's why I think I put him at 10. Although a couple people above him are really good either. So
hey,
these rankings will change in
4 days,
5 days. Yeah. So
please continue to listen to the podcast in that time frame. But
listen to it now, please.
All right, let's go.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I mean, I wasn't sure if his rushing yards were actually rushing yards or scrambling yards. Do you know what I mean? Like, was he designed rushing plays, or was he just, oh my fucking God, I got to get out of here? Kind of.
It was a lot of scrambling, and that's and that is actually almost, I used it as a benefit to Clayton Tune because he does have good pocket awareness. He can tell when the pocket's going to break down, and he kind of just scrambles out and will get his 5 or 6 yards and gets the tackle, stuff like that. But it's not a lot of like designed
running plays.
Clayton Tune runs. There was a few, but it wasn't like we need this to happen for our offense to work. But he was good at feeling pressure and kind of escaping up and getting positive yardage on broken plays, which is a good quality.
Yeah,
definitely. All right, let's go over to Jake Hayner. Probably saying that wrong still.
Jake Hayner.
All right. Guy from, I don't know where he's from, honestly. I can't even think of his name. Where he's from. Where is he from? Hayner, he's from
Fresno State.
Fresno State. That's it. Yeah.
Fresno,
I don't know why I didn't put the schools in these slides, but Fresno State, yes. John, you have him 7th. Me and Gladys both have him 9th. So, John, you get to start us off. Why is he where you have him?
So we just talked about people being hyper accurate and really enjoying that. And those people were at like 68, 69%. Hayner's at 72%. So he is that accurate, makes good decisions type of quarterback that you look for. touchdown interception ratio is great. I think he is smart with the ball. He doesn't really put it in harm's way. Again, he's another one of those guys that I think in the right situation can make all the throws needed. I have him high because I do value sort of processing and decision making a lot as well. Because if you don't put the ball in harm's way, you tend to get more opportunities at quarterback. My biggest setbacks with him are obviously the zero rushing ability. I mean, none. And the size. He's, right on the edge, 6 feet, 204. So kind of right on the edge of it being a problem. But I think he has all the tools and the mental makeup to be a smart, well-decisioned quarterback that can be, can run an offense, can run most offenses. You're not going to ask him to run Baltimore's offense, but, he could step in and make a lot of teams' offense work, but he won't elevate anyone to a higher plane of existence. That's just not who he is as a player. So that's probably why, if he was a little bit bigger and had some mobility to him, I'd have him even higher, because I do think his arm talent is that good.
All right. Gladys, I'll let you go first between us. So
I had him 9th because of exactly what John said. His size, like his frame, I don't know if it can take a beating. His inability to have substantial rushing yards. And Fresno State is okay, but it's not like SEC. Do you know what I mean? The competition level. I like it when someone puts up like crazy 9,120 yards for your career, but did you put him up against a really good defense all the time? And that was my main concern with him. Other than that, I mean, yeah, if he doesn't get hit a lot, I think he'll be fine, but I think he might get hit a lot.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I have him 9 too. I mean, I had him up at 6 at one point, and then I was going through all my stuff again, and I kind of brought him down a lot here. And it has to do with age concerns for me, lack of ideal size and everything. Like the arm strength really isn't there. He's someone who's, again, it kind of reminds me of a more accurate Zach Wilson type of individual who actually can move around the pocket, but can throw actually and make actual throws. But again, he doesn't have the arm strength. He struggled with injuries throughout his career. And I think if he takes like a bad hit, I mean, he could just be out of a game pretty early and quickly. Kind of reminds me of Jeff Driscoll, kind of, to some extent. So, I mean, Jeff Driscoll, we know him is not really a full-time kind of quarterback, and I just don't see him really being where he is a consistent backup that's promising for an NFL team. So it's kind of why I have him down at 9th. I just don't really see much upside with his play in there, and there's too many injuries, and his size just scares the hell out of me. So, all right, on to number 6, Tanner McKee from Stanford. This is interesting. You guys both have him in the top 5, 5th. Both have you at 5th. I was surprised, and I have him outside the top 10. So this is fun. I guess I'll let you guys start with the positives on him. Why is he top 5? Because it means you have somebody who is in most people's top 5, not in the top 5. So why is he top 5 for you guys?
Wow, I thought I was high on Tanner, and then I'm psyched that Gladys is here. This is huzzah!
Yeah.
This is a great day. So let me tell you, I think this is another player that is out of the box, ready to run a pro style offense. I think that it will go a long way, being accurate, having downfield arm strength, having the ability to run through progressions very quickly at a high level. I think these are all things that make for a great quarterback, make for a great pocket presence quarterback. Again, the reasons why I like him, I think he can work with any offense. I think he can get behind most offensive lines and still operate because he throws quickly. He goes through his progressions quickly. So that to me will be valued highly in the NFL, and teams will he'll get the draft capital. This to me is a bet on draft capital. That's what this is. Again, come this weekend, it could be. I don't think there will be, like I said, there'll be a huge shakeup after any of this. But I think that Tanner McKee will be one of those guys that if he gets late, early third round capital, this ranking makes sense. If he's in the 5th, 6th round, it makes no sense. So that's kind of where that's why I have him ranked here.
Size 6'6", 231. Excellent pocket. He's a big boy. Excellent pocket presence. He's got a strong arm. His arm strength is better than the talent, so he overcomes the talent with his arm strength, and he makes really good decisions. Like isn't he the one that went like 2 years on a mission or something, like a Mormon? He's Mormonish, of the Mormon of the Mormon persuasion, and then he came back, and he had like crazy offers, and he went to Stanford, and then when he found out whatever the Stanford's coach's name was isn't coaching, he decided to go into the NFL. So he's a smart kid. Like he knows his ceiling and he knows his limitations. And I like that about him. And I like more than anything that his pocket presence was just like, he's a rhythmic passer. If he can get in that rhythm behind a good line, he's good. He's good. And I would pick him up regardless of what Kyle says.
You guys really have me on my toes here. Yeah, I agree. He's got the size and build. He's got the arm talent. But for me, I feel like there's a lot of inconsistency in terms of his accuracy, his ball placement, the footwork. When watching film on him, I did not look kind of plotty, sloppy a little bit. He struggles under pressure. His completion percentage dropped nearly 20% under pressure. Turnovers, there's no mobility in his game there. I don't really see him getting away from too many pressured situations, which causes bad throws or incompletions. His completion percentage fell each and every single year over his college career, and his QBR has fallen in most passing categories from each year so far. I just don't really see. He's just, I feel like a big, thick Mike Glennon who, Mike Glennon has moments, but like no mobility, no real talent there for a long term, honestly. And I just don't see him really making an NFL roster. Like he reminds me of someone who signed with the Eagles like 2 years ago. I forget. He was a big frame quarterback, and I forget his name. I think he played for Penn State and just never.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, he's still on the Eagle squad.
He might be on the practice squad. I don't know.
Yeah, he is.
Let me look that up. Let me see if I can find out.
Cocky kid, really cocky.
Let's say QBs over the years. Here we go. I need new ones. Come on. Let's see. Not Hackenberg. Somebody else. No. I don't remember. But yeah, and he reminds me of him kind of. No, not Nate Stelfo, not Tyree Jackson. I will find out. But while you guys are talking on the next one, I will find out which that quarterback is. So, but yeah, those reasons for me. That's kind of why I'm on my side top 10. I just don't really see him being a true NFL quarterback outside of his size and arm strength. And I think everything else there's a lot of negatives for me personally. So, all right. So let's get over number 5 here. Hayden Hooker. All right. Gladys has him 4th. I have him 5th. John has him 6th. All right, Gladys, you are the top person on Hayden Hooker. Tell us why.
Okay, if Hooker, and I understand he's 25 years old, and he'll probably be 26 going into his rookie year. And I also understand that he had a torn ACL like in late November, so he's still, there are those concerns about that. But once at Tennessee, he was a baller, and he improved every year. Tennessee, he was probably the front runner for the Heisman this year had he not gotten injured. He, what was his rushing stats were?
Obscene for last year.
Yeah, they were just
104 for 430.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
So he is the epitome of the legitimate.
Kyle figured it out.
Spoilers.
Kyle figured it out.
Of the legitimate dual threat quarterback, right? He has arm talent. So I understand the smoke is that he worked in that Tennessee offense, which like just spread everyone out right, and they went down. And so, but you still have to go through progressions during that. You still have to get rid of the ball fast during that. I'm not as concerned about that as I am concerned about the ACL tear. But I think that out of all, it would be Richardson and then him as your legitimate dual threat quarterbacks who actually can deliver the ball too. And I think that deserves top 5 over what's his face. But yeah. But I just his stats are just, I don't know how you can say 27 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 430 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns. And just because of the system that he was in college, that he's not going to be able to perform at the NFL level. I think that and his age, of course, are like the main things against him. And that Tennessee system is an abnormality towards the NFL system, but it doesn't mean that he won't be able to transfer the talents that he has to an NFL system. And I think that he's getting a bad rap on that.
Right. The quarterback, by the way, is Carson Strong from Nevada. I apologize.
Carson Strong.
That's who I see as
Holy
kind
crap,
of
yeah.
Gladys just said a lot of great things. I mean, for me, the things that are concerning, that's why I have him 5th overall, is mostly because obviously the age. He's 25 years old. He's coming off an ACL injury. Those are some big knocks for me. But they also could be positives because he's not required then to start right away, and he probably won't start right away for any team who gets him, because there's a lot of teams that are going after him that are like, all right, we don't expect him to play this year. It's 2024. We're going to get him now, though, on that 5th-year option, potentially, and let him play then. He'll have time to develop his game and learn more how to work a regular NFL offense instead of the spread. I mean, he has the mechanics. He's got the big hands. He's got the footwork. He's got a fantastic touchdown-interception ratio. He's got the big arm, can make all the throws in the NFL. It just, will he recover the right way from his ACL injury? Will he be able to adjust to a more normal NFL offense? And he does take way too many hits. I'm hopefully that someone will teach him not to do that and slide or get out of balance more, which probably caused his ACL tear originally, probably. But he's got all the tools. It's just that there are some unique knocks on him that he needs to develop. And if he can do that, he could end up being one of the top 3 quarterbacks in this class. But there's just those big knocks, those little big knocks that keep him down for 5 for me. But I do like him a lot.
Yeah, this one sucks because Hendon Hooker to me is like, it's one of those things where everything on film, everything on paper, everything sounds like you do the stats, you do he balled out against Alabama. He checks every box you need. Like this is perfect, right? In my mind. The problem is I have this stupid history of old prospects coming off injury, not being successful. And that's just, to me, the only thing that's like, I just have an alarm bell in my head that's like, it's an older guy coming off an ACL. I just worry that, it might never, ever fully click for Hendon Hooker. That's all. But other than that, everything else makes sense. And I hope I'm wrong. I totally hope I'm wrong on Hendon Hooker. I hope he goes somewhere, recovers, and balls out and makes me look stupid. I guarantee. I hope that happens. But I just have seen too many other of these injured older prospects go into the NFL and just kind of get washed up into the system and, maybe be a backup, maybe be this, never really find a system that wants to commit to them, all that. And it's this idea that Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts just find that guy. It's like, well, you have to build an entire offense around that. You can't just plug this person into anyone and have it be successful. So now you have a front office, a GM, a whole organization making that decision that we're going to take Hendon Hooker and build our offense around that. And I just don't know. I don't know if a 25-year-old ACL tear player is going to get that sort of love from an NFL franchise. Now, they might. 2 years from now, I could be totally wrong. And I hope I am. But that's my only fear with Hendon Hooker. Stats are great. Film is awesome. Beat up on Alabama. Like everything else is bulletproof. Yeah, I got nothing else against it other than age and injury.
I respect it. All right. Let's go over to number 4, Anthony Richardson. Me and Gladys have him 3rd. John, you have him 4th. So Gladys, I'll let you start. Why is he 3rd for you?
Okay, so Anthony Richardson is a freaking beast. Like, he is literally a linebacker that plays quarterback. And he plays quarterback. Granted, like his one season in Florida, he was wildly erratic. Like, he had really good games against Tennessee, I think, and then he just had like a really bad game against South Florida. But he showed on the field. Kyle, you and I are gonna have a long talk later. He showed on the field that he is capable of making the throws. Not consistently, but I mean, except for 2 of the people in the draft, I think that is a legitimate complaint on all of them. And he is, without a doubt, a dual threat quarterback. He's a dual threat quarterback. His completion percentage, not great, not good at all. But the ability to step up against Tennessee, the ability to step up against who else? There was another SEC team that he played really well against, and I can't think of who it is now. Kind of outweigh the inability that he showed against South Florida for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, he played well against really good competition. So does he rise to the competition and then lose focus when he has to play lesser competition because he thinks he can beat them? I don't know. That's something that can be corrected if that's the case. But as far as just the intangibles, the size, the ability to make those crazy ass throws, the ability to run, I don't know why he wouldn't be like the 3rd quarterback off in the draft this year. I don't know why Indianapolis wouldn't take him. I don't know why Houston. Who knows what they're going to do? But I don't know why Indy wouldn't take him. You know, I don't see the extreme. I understand the inaccuracies. I just don't see the extreme negativeness that he is not the 3rd best quarterback in this draft.
Right, and I can agree with that, honestly. I mean, as long as he doesn't end up at the Raiders, I'm thrilled. I am thrilled to get Anthony Richardson on my fantasy team this year. But he's got the level 10 in many categories, but then he has like the level 1 in so many other categories. It's unreal how crazy
inaccurate he is.
Talent. Yeah, accuracy is
it's like it's like he's juggling balls. It's like he's really good, and then he's like, "Whoops, I dropped one."
Exactly. It's just like the mechanics are off. There's a lot of danger throws that cause turnover potentially. He needs to work on his overall improvement of his accuracy at every single level. He's very raw in terms of a quarterback. But then he's got the playmaking ability, the big run ability, can work in different offensive schemes. You know, he can make the 90-yard throw downfield. He has the size. He's not like a little skinny guy that, he can run a lot. No, he is a gigantic beast that if you will come after him, he could stiff arm you down pretty much like a Derrick Henry. So like you have all these major traits. That's why I don't have him like at 1 or 2 is because of the accuracy. Some of the core depths of being a quarterback are just off, but he's got all the outside things that would make a quarterback elite. He just doesn't have like the groundwork finished. And if he gets that done and develops the right way, he could be the best quarterback in this class without a doubt, but he just needs to get the groundwork going. But he has the fancy stuff you love on the outside. It's like getting a car with a bad motor, but then having the nice like Ferrari doors, the gas lights, all the cool stuff that a car would have. It's just that the engine isn't really good. So if you can fix that, you're set.
Oh, yeah. If you can fix that. That's the question. If you can fix that. Listen, I have him ranked 4th, and to me, that is because I'm acknowledging the upside. I am 100% acknowledging that there is upside there. But I will also say, if Josh Allen didn't recently happen, we might not be having this Anthony Richardson conversation as fiercely as we are. I think everyone wants to assume that you're going to get to the next level, get a good coach, and figure it out and be better. And that, again, I hope that's the case. I hope Anthony Richardson proves me wrong. But when you have a career 54% completion percentage, when you can't throw a simple 10-yard out route, when you can't do like these basic operate an offense type of things, yeah, you can put a laser 75 yards down the field. 100%. I get that. You can stiff arm people and run. You're a freak. You're a crazy athlete. You're awesome in all these regards, and we love it. You're a weapon. You're Taysom Hill. You're a weapon for sure on an offense. You're a weapon on a team. But are you, again, going to evolve into this 65% completion percentage passer that makes good decisions and can sustain a full drive? The things that bother me about Anthony Richardson, consistency game to game for sure bothered me, but consistency drive to drive would bother me. You know, he'd have one drive where he would sustain this awesome drive and score a touchdown. You're like, oh, great, this is good. And then next time he'd 3 and out, get halfway through a drive, and fumble or what. And it's like, okay, I need some sustained offense here. So I question a lot about Anthony Richardson, but I have to, and anyone who plays fantasy has to rank him high, because that it is to me a low percentage chance of a hit, but if it hits, it is like, yeah, of course, he's the next cheat code. He's the next superstar. Like he is, if everything does hit and everything works out, then for sure, Anthony, we're going to look back and laugh that I had him at 4. But my point is, I think there is a big variance of it doesn't work out. We've had, plenty of examples. Josh Allen's a great one, but we've had plenty of examples where quarterbacks can't figure out accuracy issues and can't learn, basic check down patterns and throws like that. Like I love these beautiful deep balls. I love everything about it. I love that you can throw on a line, but I need some touch and nuance as well.
All right, John. All right. Let's get over number 3. Will Levis. Coach Steve has him at 1. Sean has him at 3. Gladys has him at 6. All right. So I guess I will start us off here, since I am the high guy on Will Levis. He is my guy this year. It's not like the Zach Wilson hype when I had it a couple years ago. This is a much different quarterback. Much different. So what I like about Will Levis is that he has the arm strength to make all the NFL throws. No issue about that. I've seen on film, he can make any throw out there if he wants to. He's got the mold, the size to be an NFL quarterback, which is great. He's got the upside in his game there that he showed us in 2021, not as much in 2022. But again, he got injured in 2022, and kind of that was part of the reason. Like prior to his injury in 2022, he was averaging 280 yards, 2.4 touchdowns, and about a 0.8 of an interception. Once he got hurt, he started averaging about 166 yards, 1.1 touchdowns, and 1 interception per game. So the injury obviously was a major downward to his 2022 season. I get it. But he played very well against Georgia both times over the last 2 years. And again, we know Georgia is an elite defense, and they played very well on that note. He's got this mobility to move. He ran very well last year. This year, he didn't run that well. But last year, he ran well enough where he got like 200-300 yards rushing. He plays in pro-style offense. He played good against SEC teams who have better players on them, obviously. So he plays with elite talent and played well against them in 2021 in a Kentucky team that we know doesn't bring in the best talent to the NFL. And again, I know there's some questions about decision makings and turnovers, but I think those kind of things can kind of be cleared up with good coaching. And he's got everything you would need, I think.
Yeah, I think honestly.
Oh, go ahead, John.
Oh, sorry. I didn't hear you. I thought you were done.
I'm basically done. I have my number 1. I love it. So he's my number 1 quarterback.
I listen, I love him too. I think he's a good quarterback, great prospect. The reasons why I don't have him higher is one, I don't think he has as much rushing ability as some of these other guys for fantasy purposes. And also I think, his touchdown to interception ratio is a red flag. It's alarming. When you get into the top 3, you get into the top 4, you got to start being nitpicky somewhere. And to me, that's where I'm a little nitpicky, is you got a lot of interceptions to the name, which is fine in college. I just hope you clean them up, because that's a good way to really piss off an offensive coordinator, is throw a lot of interceptions.
I am. I just. I understand he has the size and he has the cannon of an arm. He's wildly inaccurate, I think, and he regressed from 2021 to 2022. Like, and granted, he played hurt, which should he have played? I don't know. He played hurt, and maybe that's what caused his stats to go downward. But he averaged what 8.5 yards per attempt. So he averaged more yards per attempt in 2022 than he did in 2021, and yet every other stat that he had for passing was lower. And I mean, him and Richardson looked really good at the combine, but no one's rushing you, and no one's like in your face. And I just don't see. Like, I hear now that he's supposed to be the number 2 quarterback off the board. I don't see it. I don't understand it. 46 touchdowns and 25 interceptions. That's crap. 19 touchdowns, 10 interceptions last year. That's crap. I mean, I understand he has a good ceiling. He doesn't have the high ceiling in that group, but he has a good ceiling. Like his potential, if they can fix the problems, it's like John feels about Hooker. If they can fix the problems that he has, and if he goes to the right team, yeah, I think he will probably be a fantasy stud, and I will feel a little bad about having him ranked 6, not a whole lot, but just a little bad. But I what John said about Hooker, I feel about Levis. I think that there are problems that need to be corrected, and I'm not sure that the NFL level will correct them for him. I mean, he's got the moxie. Is that the word we want to use? Like, he thinks he can. Yeah, he's got the moxie, and he does have a cannon of an arm. Like, he can make those really long throws, but he isn't wildly inaccurate, and his footwork isn't that great. And I'm not really sure he's a leader of men. So, yeah.
All right, Gladys. All right. Let's stop hating on my.
This is why talking prospects is so fun.
All right. So over to number 2, CJ Stroud. John, you have him at 1. Gladys, you have him at 2. I am at 4. John, I'll let you start. Tell us why he's your number 1 quarterback.
So
look at that. He only ran for 100 yards in college. Damn. He's more mobile.
Not a lot. So not a lot of yards in college. He's not that's not his game at all. But what I do like about CJ Stroud, there's 2 things. One is the Georgia film. And there's an old sort of scouting adage: if you've seen it once, you can see it again. And so once you put that on film, that's it. Like, you now have that in everybody's mind, and especially having it be in the last game of the year, that's an exclamation point. So, a lot of these scouts will go into it and look back at some of the older stuff from CJ Stroud, but he developed so much as a passer. He had an unbelievable talent around him. I get that, but that's not a knock on CJ Stroud. That he's going to go to the NFL and deal with talent at that level as well. So he's going to be throwing to, superstar wide receivers. I'm not worried that he had, probably the greatest wide receiver core of all time with him. But that doesn't bother me, because I think he'll be fine in the NFL too. Again, when we get to the top 3, when we start getting into these, elite levels, top 10 picks in the NFL, you have to get a little sort of nitpicky. And, we'll talk about the next guy next. But the reason why I have CJ Stroud number 1 is I don't feel comfortable with the second smallest quarterback in NFL history. I just don't. That's not for me. I would rather take the bet on, less injury risk, size, to me, I just think CJ Stroud is more prototypical franchise quarterback. Again, we don't have to talk about his arm talent. We don't have to talk about his release. We don't have to talk about any of that. The only knock on him in a production standpoint is the lack of rushing, but we saw in the Georgia game that when he has to do it, he can do it. So I think that is sort of answered those questions for me. He didn't put the stats up, but on film he can run. So I'm assuming that he can run in the NFL.
All right. Gladys, over to you.
I have to second everything he said. Stroud is the most accurate quarterback in this class, consistently. He is the pocket passer, and the knock on him was that he doesn't try to run. He looks down, keeps his eye downfield. He tries to pass the ball, but in the Georgia game, when he had to run, he ran, and 71 rushing yards isn't going to knock any walls down, but he did rush for 71 yards, and you did see him run when he had to. So you know that he is capable of doing it. And I don't know if there's a legitimate knock on him. Besides the rushing, I don't know. I can't think of anything I would say that would be like, oh yeah, he's not good enough. I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have him at 4. I don't hate him at 4. I still like him a lot. Obviously, I think he could be a really good NFL quarterback, and I think he will be. But again, there's just some things I just don't like about his game that he almost reminds me of it's too good to be true of who he is. And I feel like when you watch some of the closer things, in terms of under pressure, he has wildly inconsistent under pressure, making his decisions kind of on the later end there. Kind of drifts off in the pocket and kind of moves out quicker than he needs to, which causes defenders to shift pretty quickly on him. Again, I know he can probably run, but the fact that he just never showed it, I mean, yeah, maybe he'll start running at the NFL. But if you're not running at this point, I mean, is that going to be part of your game? If it's not in college, why would it be part of your game at the NFL level? You're a thrower. So things like that could kind of limit him to me at some extent there, to be honest. I feel like he had a lot of predetermined throws made for him at Ohio State with a really good offense surrounding him. And I want to see what he does when he doesn't have that elite talent around him. Can he still thrive under that situation there? I mean, depends where he goes. I mean, there's rumors about him coming outside the top 10 now, kind of a fall like Justin Fields had a couple of years ago. So, I mean, if that happens, to me, that's telling me that NFL teams don't really truly believe in CJ Stroud as the number one guy. I mean, he was the number one guy for Panthers for a while, and now it's the guy we're going to talk about in a minute. So, again, he's good, but there's just some knocks on him that I just don't like. That I feel like it's more of it's good, but watch out, something bad could happen. So that's kind of how I feel about CJ Stroud.
You don't like Christmas, do you?
I love Christmas. It's right around my birthday. All right, over to our number one, the last of the night, Bryce Young, Alabama quarterback. Gladys, this is your number one, and me and John's number 2. So tell us why he's your number one quarterback.
I understand that if he gets drafted number 1, or if he gets drafted in the NFL, he will be the smallest NFL quarterback in the history of the NFL. Someone has to do it. Someone has to be that person, right?
That's a good point.
Bryce Young has shown he's just, when you watch him, it's masterful, right? He makes all the throws. The pocket pressure doesn't bother him. He can run the ball. I don't see someone who has happy feet. I don't see someone who sees the pressure and thinks, this isn't really good for me. I see someone who sees the pressure and says, I can rise above that. And you got to know, he's been the smallest kid for his whole entire life, probably. Maybe in not peewee ball or whatever that is. But once he got into high school and college, he's been the smallest kid. And to me, that kind of mentality that you're the smallest, you have to overcome whatever everyone else is saying, is an extra bonus to what he has already accomplished. And he's accomplished so much. I mean, for his career, 80 touchdowns and 12 interceptions, that's ridiculous numbers. Those are ridiculous numbers, and he's putting them up in Bama. He's not putting them up in Shepherd or wherever that other kid was from. He's putting them up in Bama. You know what? Against SEC quality opponents. No disrespect to your boy. I'm sure he's really great. But I understand the size issue, and I understand that one catastrophically big hit could put him out. But it couldn't also when Drew Brees came, everyone's like, oh my God, he's too small. Someone has to be that next person. And I think Bryce Young is that guy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, again, this is probably, again, this is just a knock on me from just, I go into like historical scouting data sometimes. And I just say like the odds of this working out just are very low. Like everything else about Bryce Young is bulletproof. If he was a 6 foot prospect, if he was 6 foot 210, he's the number one pick probably last year. You know what I'm saying? Like he's that good. He's completely. We don't have to question his talent. For me, it is purely just the size and getting, hit week in, week out by these guys that are 350 plus. Piles up when you're 190 pounds. Like it's just a lot on the body. And so, I don't look at the size and think the two things that a lot of people say is, oh, he can't see over the line, which is stupid. No, that's not size. And two, again, one big hit and he'll be done forever. I don't believe that either, but I do believe he could be one of these guys that maybe misses a week here, maybe misses 2 weeks here, and is constantly just battling injuries. And because it's tough. It's just really hard to play in the NFL week in, week out at that size. And that's the only question I have, similar. I mean, Tua is not a small guy, but similar to Tua, kind of like, in and out, like he's injured, he's not injured. Like I could just see a season, a few seasons or a career like that for Bryce Young at that size. Maybe not. Again, maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe he's going to be the best. But I just think that, processing ability and making the throws and all that is totally great until you're hit 15, 16 times 4 weeks in a row. And you're like, all right, like I can't, my body just can't keep up with this.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I really do like Bryce Young. Honestly, I feel like he has basically all but 2 different traits that are all like 8s. In terms of a 10, is just solid product. He's just a solid quarterback. He can make the throws. He has the accuracy. He doesn't have the mobility, just show the mobility, but sure he could run once if he needed to. But again, it might not be in his game either. Just like CJ Stroud, this might not be him running, might not be in his game. He's a quarterback that can throw the ball very accurately and make all the throws. But in the long run, does he get injured? Does this overall size just hurt his value? We don't really see these kind of quarterbacks. I mean, I think he could build on his size. He could get bigger. He could get put on pounds. He could do that. So he could then eventually get to 200 pounds at some point in his NFL career. Maybe he doesn't, but he could. He could get there.
Didn't he weigh 204 at the combine?
I thought it
was. Was it?
Yeah. He went up to 204 at the combine. They were saying that's why he wasn't running.
204?
I think so.
Well, there you go. That's why he wasn't running.
Minimum. I think
207. Because he knew his 40. Because he knew his 40 time was going to be shit.
Exactly.
Because he ate pizza for a week and got up to 204.
194 at the combine.
Oh, I thought it was 204.
Yeah, I was going to say. I'm pretty sure it was under 200.
Yeah, it was under 2. But if he gets to 200, I mean, it's not, at that point, it's not that big of a deal. But again, it's just that the overall size and structure, frame of him is concerning. And that's why he's number 2 for me. He'd be number 1 if, like John said, if he was bigger and taller. But he's not. So if he's number 2, I think he's going to be a good quarterback. He's going to be a Carolina Panther, it seems like. So we'll have to wait and see. But he should be in a good situation, hopefully, to produce and have a long career. They just got to find to make sure they find ways to protect him in the general sense. So any NFL team, whoever gets him.
On that note, in specifically the Carolina Panthers case, if he does go number 1 overall to the Carolina Panthers, he will be in a great situation because their offensive line is awesome. So he won't feel a lot of pressure. He won't feel a lot of people bearing down on him. The problem is then he's throwing to, who's he throwing to? So it's kind of stinks. It's a catch-22. I think he'll be fine if he lands in Carolina. The problem is they won't have they traded away DJ Moore to get him, so he doesn't have anyone to throw to.
We'll talk about that next Monday, John.
Yes.
We'll talk about that next Monday.
Sorry,
we'll get ahead of ourselves. We'll talk about that next Monday.
Getting ahead of myself. My bad.
But
anyway.
I mean, that's going to wrap up our rookie quarterbacks, the last of our prospect review of this April month here. Gladys, you were a fun guest to have on today. A lot of great content you brought our way here. Love that. If there's anything you want to mention out to our listeners, anything you might be working on, now is the floor is yours.
No, I appreciate you guys having me. I will be doing the Going for Two draft on Thursday, the late edition, because I'm on Mountain Time apparently. So 10 o'clock, which would be midnight your guys' time.
Oof.
I know, right? I get penalized because I live in Mountain Time and my co-host lives in Pacific Time. So yeah, so we'll be doing the late edition and seeing how badly Mel Kiper fucks this one up. And that's what I look forward to. I love draft season. It's like Christmas time for me.
Love it. Me too. So give her a follow, guys. Really appreciate it. John, anything you want to say before we get going?
Nope. Shout out. I will be with the Good Old Boys on their draft recap show. So watch us live. Have it streaming on your computer while you got this draft going. Me and Steve, we got the first hour together, right?
Yeah.
Me and you and the Going for Two and the Good Old Boys. So that'll be a fun show. Luckily we'll probably have like the first 10 picks. So we'll break down a bunch of big picks.
The quarterback talk. So
with quarterback talk, which would be so much fun. So tune into that. And also, I want to say, everyone listening, go follow everyone at Going for Two. Go check out their content. They're some of the best people. Jeff is a friend of mine. Really helped me out when I was sort of breaking into this industry. And they're great people, super smart, know their stuff. Ryan and Jeff and everyone over there. So much love to everyone at the team.
Oh, that's right. I'm going to be doing Friday with Kyle.
We'll talk.
We'll talk about the smoke, Kyle, that you're giving me.
Love it. Yeah, but like I said, guys, again, like John said, I'll be on the Good Old Boys that night too. I'll be on Dynasty Nerds later on at that night. So I'll be on a couple shows. We won't do a show ourselves, but I will try to do a couple mock drafts throughout the weekend and try to each night maybe do a mock draft and where teams already have landed so people can start getting ahead of themselves. I know people love to do drafts as soon as the draft's over. So we'll be doing a bunch of those. And obviously we'll be back Monday. We'll start breaking down what happened at the NFL draft and going through that. And that will be a couple weeks and we'll get through a lot more of that rookie content with them actually on team. So we thank you guys for tuning in. As always, please go check out our Twitter at Coaches Fantasy. Please check out our YouTube channel here at the Fantasy Coaches. We got a lot of cool content here. We also break down the rookie prospects into their own individual films, so you can watch them separately if you'd like as well. And as always, just continue to listen to us, and we're just here to help you guys win some championships. And tune in until next time, guys, and have a good one.